have some.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yes Have Some podcast. We're continuing. Maybe we're starting. It depends when we post this episode. Is this going to be the first, the last, or the middle episode of the celebration? We don't know yet. But
shouldn't that be the first or the last?
It's the first. The debut.
We'll make the decision right now.
It's right now.
Now we celebrate.
Welcome to the celebration. 1 year of Ghostbusters Afterlife. We can't believe it. It's been an incredible year of watching Afterlife once a month. Every Tuesday, every other Tuesday. That would be twice.
A lot of tissues.
A lot of tissues. Eric Reich from Ghost Corps has agreed. I don't know why. When I told Abby and Jake, I was like, I can't believe he said. Can you believe, Eric? You've never really done YHS proper. This is your first time.
Have I not really?
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
we did just on little like interviews here and there.
Yeah,
little. We did the Spangler wand. Whenever that was. 2020 pandemic. I don't know. It was so long ago.
The best and worst part about these things is that somehow my parents and my grandparents always Google my name, and then they're like, "We saw you on an interview with this YHS podcast, and wow, you do such a good job. Why don't you tell us about these things?"
Right. Yeah. I get it. I mean, that's how I hear from my parents. My dad we'll call and he'll randomly find something on YouTube. He always watches it and then goes, so how is that? You guys make money, do you? Why do you do it if you don't make a lot of money?
None of our parents understand. My mom doesn't know what a podcast is at all. And she's like, why do you keep going to New York for Ghostbusters stuff?
Or my dad will be like, you sounded really good, but maybe don't put your hand on your face.
Oh, that's
right.
There it is.
He compliments me and then gives me a little, piece of advice.
Right. Or last anecdote, I was on the phone with my stepmom and she goes, how's Have Some More? I bet you didn't think I would know the name of it. I'm like, well, there you go. So Eric, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be talking about Afterlife. Can you believe it's been a year since it was released and almost a decade since it was filmed, I think.
I know. It's crazy. We keep in my mind, I'm like, it was forever ago when we did Afterlife and it was supposed to come out forever ago. And then at the same time, it's been less than a year, or now a year today, that it's come out. So it's really crazy.
It is crazy. And we were so lucky. We should thank you profusely. We were so lucky to be at New York Comic-Con for that debut screening. Maybe we should start there. Yeah. What a day that was. I mean, we did not know that you guys were going to drop the movie, but it was heavily hinted like, hey, if you can be there, maybe you should try to be there. We were going to be there for the panel regardless. So do you have memories of what, because that was the second big screening. The first one was at CinemaCon.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I was at both of them, actually. The first one, it's a business thing, so it was less exciting because, the audience, they're total filmmakers or film goers, they're theater owners. So it's a tough audience, but it played super well, and we were really excited about that. But then the Comic-Con was just we felt like rock stars after that thing. Coming off of the stage and being backstage, everyone was so excited once the movie started playing, and people were freaking out at that opening scene. So,
yeah, I mean,
insane.
We've talked about it a lot, but Abby, I don't think I've never seen faces on these two. I can't imagine what my face was like, but it was like shock, excitement, but also we've literally been waiting for this our whole lives. So when you finally experience the thing you've been waiting for, it's very simultaneously stressful and nerve-wracking, and also the most exciting thing that's ever happened. And the movie played so well. That crowd, it was imagine the proton pack the first time it fires up and the crowd's just cheering like you're at a concert.
It noises.
Yeah.
That's what was so crazy about that. We were talking about that, is just how many just the sound effects and the powering on and the trap and just those little pieces that people just freaked out about.
Yeah.
Everything got a standing ovation. It was awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was really
go for it.
I was just gonna say it was there was no build. It was really tough to be from the moment Jason announced you're about to watch this movie, 30 seconds later, Egon is on the screen. So you're just can we pause for a second?
Right. Yeah. I need
the fact that we were able to keep that such a secret the entire time between Hasbro making toys, all the development, the shooting of that, I don't think there was any sort of leak on any blog that I ever saw of like Egon.
We never saw.
In this
I mean,
movie.
in
We had no idea.
every episode of this show where we talked about what we thought the movie was going to be. I know I was like, Egon is not going to be in this movie at all. I'll be like, I was like, he's the lamp. He'll be there in like feeling, but as far as like seeing him, I was like, no, they wouldn't do that. And then
Right.
it was the best thing
Well,
ever.
because we thought that because it's so hard to do and pull it off.
Exactly.
So that kind of leads me down a road when you guys were, developing the script and developing the ideas and all of that was on the table. How do we've seen the behind the scenes featurettes. We know how amazing the technology is and was that allowed that to happen. But, that has to be the biggest hurdle as far as like pulling something off story wise. And like, if you don't stick that landing, there's not like a net, right? Like there's
exactly. I kind of think back to like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and how Ivan always described it as like, this is either going to work or it's going to bomb really hard at the end.
Right. But
luckily, and Jason was great about obviously reaching out to the Ramis family beforehand. So they were on board the entire time and a part of the process. And we wanted to do it justice. And, it's a big, obviously emotional moment that, thankfully paid off in the best way possible.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it was incredibly well done. And even in a lot of the times when you see those kind of special effects in movies, like, the first time you see it, you're just kind of caught up in the event of watching the movie. If you go back to like Rogue One, when they did like Peter Cushing or Carrie Fisher, but like a couple years later, you look back and you're like, that is a digital character. Like there's no way around it. I mean, you put on Afterlife now. I mean, it's been a year. I've seen it a lot. Like it is the best. I think it's like the best special effect I've ever seen in a movie. Like I have a feeling there's people who watched it and maybe they don't know the whole backstory of Harold Ramis and everything who might not even realize. Like I think about like my parents watching it. Like they would, like my dad wouldn't, or my stepmom, she doesn't even know the name of my podcast. She wouldn't even know that wasn't actually Harold Ramis. Like it was just an incredible feat. Yeah.
Right. To us that were in the audience, it was like absolutely incredible. And I was glad there were people around me that I knew in that moment because it was like it was emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so
it
special.
Really was.
Yeah.
The way they did that too, I know it was in the behind the scenes and everything, but the way they sort of, the first thing we saw was they showed us a scene from the original movie with the CG Harold Ramis character in it.
Right.
And then once we couldn't tell that was any difference from the original, they took that character and then they started aging that up.
Right.
All the effects. So obviously that base layer of who Harold was at the core in the 84 movie was the most important thing. And then we just built on that. So
it's like simultaneously the coolest and scariest thing ever. Cause it's like, I mean, from a filmmaking standpoint, like the possibilities are really endless. So you being in the biz, that has to be exciting for you.
I was just gonna say, we're like working on this new project with I don't know if you guys have seen how they're building out scenes from the Unreal Engine using the Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
Like they did something for the Matrix, I believe.
Yeah, I played it. I did the demo, the PlayStation demo.
That sort of technology they're showing us right now is so cool, and there's so much opportunities with that in the future of filmmaking. But anyways,
that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's cool.
So kind of going back to like, I'm always interested, like, we've heard Jason talk a lot about, he had this idea and he went to Ivan with it, and Ivan was like, you have to do this. Like from your, like, you're right there, obviously. Can you talk a little bit about your personal experience of hearing about the idea for Afterlife for the first time and I mean,
it was kind of the first time was actually, Jason was here, but the doors were closed. It was literally just him and his dad and Gil. So that part was like, what are they saying in there? What's it going to be? Nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Right.
And then literally Ivan, after they had left, like called in some of the other executives in the office and sat down, was like, guys, like I'm blown away. He got emotional. He was like, it was such a good story. But even with us, it was like pretty secretive at that point. He didn't want to give away too much. He wanted Jason to develop it more and, come up with a script. So I just knew some very little details before I read the script for the first time. Just in seeing Ivan's, emotional reaction to it. And just the fact that Jason obviously, came on board to do something, I was like, well, he must have an idea, that's worth telling. Otherwise he wouldn't have done it. So
Right.
Highly motivated for sure.
And like at that point, and I know you probably can't get into much detail and specific, but this is sometime between 2016 and 2019. So we'll just put it in that time frame.
It wasn't like I first read the script. Sorry, we shot in 2019, right? Dates are so confusing now.
It was it was announced in January of 2019. You guys shot that summer.
Yeah, so I read the script for the first time at the end of 2018. So probably in like September, October of 2018.
Okay.
And then right after we read the script and the studio had read the script and we found out that we were good to go, we shot that little teaser, which was part of. And that was shot not too far from LA here. And that was just like super exciting. We just got like thrown into it. We got the Ecto. That was the original Ecto that we painted to look, like an old sort of weathered Afterlife Ecto. And we threw it in a barn and did the whole teaser thing. So it really went fast from that point forward. And that was like right around Christmas, I think, December, and then we released the teaser in January, right?
Yeah, and I think so obviously we're like, I've been searching Ghostbusters 3 news, on Proton Charging and Ghostbusters HQ since 1999. Like I'm sure Troy and Chris are sick of me by now because they've been doing this a long time. So like we're pretty up to date. Like it was very quiet. There was not much rumor or innuendo. We all hoped there would be more projects, but there really wasn't a lot. I think it was only when Dan went on Dan Rather, like a couple weeks before all this started happening, and it was always Dan. But I remember specifically there was something about that time where it almost seemed like even he believed it, and I was like, "There's something different about this guy."
You can tell in Dan's voice that he actually knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
I love that.
But then we were all like guessing who the filmmakers were.
Yeah, I mean that I think was probably a shock to a lot of people, and that we had to, if I remember correctly, we had a whole plan to like roll out the teaser and the announcement and everything together. But someone got wind and was going to jump the gun on us. So I think we put something out and then we followed up with the teaser like a day or two later, which wasn't how we originally wanted to do it. But yeah, we had to just sort of pivot in that moment.
Yeah, it ended up working so well because like we have long like dreamed about like what if you just got a teaser for a movie that you didn't know was happening, and we're like, well.
It's literally the best. It's like the thing we dream about, and it's only happened like 2 or 3 times. Like secret movies being made.
Yeah, it's usually Cloverfield.
Yeah, it's the most exciting thing ever. So when it was Ghostbusters, we were like, I was like, what?
Yeah, I'll never forget the text that we got from Troy Benjamin. We were shopping.
He linked me to the article.
It's like the Drew Barrymore line from like I forget which movie, but she's like, just breathe.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what Troy said.
Because it was a link to the EW article, and then I was like, oh, and I've been arguing with people on message boards my entire adult life. Every time somebody said Jason Reitman should do a Ghostbusters movie, I was like, you don't know how the movie business
works. It's not going to happen. Yeah, you just don't know.
Have you seen Tully? The guy who did Tully's not doing a Ghostbusters movie. And then, of course, it's announced, and I was like, of course, this makes so much sense.
Honestly, I think it's the only way we would have gotten a movie made.
Yeah,
at that time, so it worked out perfectly.
I mean, just people always are interested in knowing the behind the scenes kind of stuff. Like, were you? Where was Ghostbusters at that point before Jason came in? Was it just trying to figure it out? Still,
it was honestly because Ghost Corps was set up, during the 2016 movie. We were just trying to figure out a new path forward. Honestly,
right?
What the future was going to look like, and we were maintaining obviously licensing and stuff, and we explored some VR things during that time and some other projects that are, I'm forgetting right now, but it was sort of a regroup moment.
Right.
Let a little time pass after the 2016 movie and figure out how we were going to pivot and move forward.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure. And then like it's been like best case scenario ever since. Well, besides the
minus
pandemic.
exactly, yeah.
Right.
Right.
That was
Besides
sort of
that.
a big bummer of it all. It's like, all right, we've got this momentum, and then plug
Yeah.
pull.
Yeah. Going back to Ghostbusters Fan Fest 2019, this was kind of like Jason's first introduction to like being in front of the fandom, like in person. And we kind of joked about it. Like, I don't think, and Eric, I would always interested in getting your perspective on this. I don't know if people realize that Ghostbusters has like an almost like Star Wars like fandom. Like, I think there are people who just like, it's Ghostbusters. Everybody likes Ghostbusters, but like there's this other part of it. Like, are you guys prepping Jason and Gil for that at the time? Like, hey, they can be intense.
Or were they aware?
I think he had experienced it a little bit, but
Yeah.
I don't think he was ready, nor was he sure what that day was going to be like.
Right.
I do remember a really cool moment when he first got here. We were really late for the photos, but Jason took the time and was like walking through the line of people that were waiting
Yep.
with me and saying hello to a bunch of people, taking pictures with little kids. And I think in that moment, I think maybe he realized like, okay, this is a big deal. Because coming out of that, we were, that was June, right? So
Yeah.
we were in the middle of shooting at that point, or just about to start.
It was like the week before you guys left. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how that I know Eric's schedule for 2019 better than
than I do.
Yeah. So okay, so casting news is coming out at that point. McKenna Grace, Finn Wolfhard, the Paul Rudd announcement was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, can we go back? Yeah, let's talk about that.
That was crazy. That once Paul signed on, he literally lived, I think, across the street from the firehouse, or he has a friend or someone that lives very close to the firehouse. And he was like, I'm just going to walk by the firehouse and like take a little video and let's do this. Like,
right.
Let's announce it, And Jason showed me that. He actually texted it to me right away. And he was like, dude, look how cool this is. And then it's just like, oh my God, like we're making a Ghostbusters movie and Paul Rudd's at the firehouse right now announcing this.
Yeah. It is insane.
Yeah.
And like Paul Rudd
serendipitous.
He was long rumored. Like he was one of the names that always went around.
Yeah.
And people were talking
when
about
it was
like
just gonna be like a poor funny guys.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that he made it in and is the character who he is, it's fantastic.
Yeah, Gruberson's great.
Yeah.
Legendary,
Love
immediate
Gruberson.
legend in Ghostbusters canon.
Yeah. The Cujo, that moment when he put the Cujo tape in,
Love
I
it.
was like
That was it.
freaking out. We've talked about it.
Right. So okay, so this is kind of all building up towards, you guys are finally filming. We've had the pleasure of talking to people like Ben Eady and people, we talked to Logan Kim and his family, and like the sense that you get from everybody is like this really felt like a family who had like a deep passion for the brand. So Eric, can you talk a little bit about like what that set was like compared to, other movies you've done?
I mean, that what statement you just said, that was the first question Jason literally asked pretty much every crew member he hired was, tell me about your love for Ghostbusters. Are you a fan of Ghostbusters? It was really important to him to make this a family atmosphere and to have people that were working on the film that were passionate about the film, all the way down to the actors. McKenna Grace, I remember she was telling us that, she had dressed up as a Ghostbuster back in the day when she was little. She had like a Slimer plushie that she would carry around, and so it was all around just a really fun atmosphere. And everyone that was there in Calgary, from Ben Eady to the local guys that were working on the movie, it felt like a family. And Jason also brought his film family too, so he's done a ton of movies, and obviously a lot of the people that worked on Ghostbusters also have been on his movies all the way back to Thank You for Smoking. So
right.
That's so nice to keep the same group.
Yeah, and also then I had worked for Ivan for so long, and Jason had only worked with Ivan on Up in the Air when I first started, and I was literally, I think, like an intern or had just gotten hired So I honestly didn't even have that much interaction with Jason throughout my career until we started working together on Afterlife. So that was a big bonus for me too, just to be able to work with both Reitmans at the time.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about Ivan. It was so sad this year. We obviously our condolences to you guys, and lots of love that came out of the community for Ivan. It was so. I mean, this is what happens. Unfortunately, when people pass, you start going, "Oh, we just saw him a couple months ago, and he was so excited." And so, like, but the one story we always tell is at that New York Comic Con screening when they announced, like, that they were going to show it, like he like screamed. It was like
He was
he
so
was
excited.
he was like at a
guttural yelp. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Couldn't
It
even
felt so
contain
good.
it.
yeah.
He was just like, show him the movie.
Show him, put it on. So Ivan was very involved, and I think Jason in an interview said nobody had seen Afterlife more than Ivan. So, I don't know. Can you just talk a little bit about his dedication to the project? I mean, he very well could have, leaned back and just kind of let it happen. And
honestly, since I started working for him as an assistant, the first movie I worked on with him was No Strings Attached in 2000, and I guess we started shooting that in 2009. So I just started working for him for the last basically 2 years, but I was basically like an office manager. I had just moved up as from an intern, and he gave me this opportunity. He said, why don't you come to LA with me? We're going to do No Strings Attached. And then he's like, and then we're going right into Ghostbusters. Like, he knew that was going to be his next thing. So basically the entire career that I worked with him for the last 15, 16 years, Ghostbusters was always still on his mind, and he always was trying to do Ghostbusters. So I think then to be able to do that with his son, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like, serendipitous in a way that, like, I mean, because I think 2009, 2010, like that was probably the closest it ever actually had, got, right? Like that was like the Gene and Lee script that we've all read about. I've never read. It's never leaked or anything. If you just want to post it somewhere, we'd love to read it.
Still got that one.
Check it out.
Yeah, we'd love to.
Actually, I had
PO box.
I did have it. You'll like this though. I did have an email exchange with Ethan Cohen once. Like maybe this was like 2017.
Before or after.
I was like, hey, do you want to come on and talk about the script? And he was like, yeah. Is it ever leaked? I was like, no. And he was like, cool. And then 2 days later, he was like, hey, I can't. He's like, I can't. He's like, I can't do that to Ivan. And I was like, all right, well,
yeah.
Thanks, Ethan
Next
Cohen.
Those were all so close to being made.
So close.
Ethan
But so yeah, I mean, but once this got rolling, like Ivan was, we've heard the stories. I think we were talking to Bryn and Francois, like they would talk about, like sometimes Jason would tell them one thing and walk out the room, and Ivan would walk over with some new direction. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, luckily, or not, maybe not so luckily, the production office was right above us. So literally in our building, we had the first 2 floors, and Ivan would just mosey on up there and start talking to people, figuring out what was going on in between, meetings and stuff.
Right.
That's great.
That's amazing. That's really special. And then Jason talked about at FanFest this year, or not FanFest, Ectofest, different branding.
Mm-hmm.
That before him and Gil had laid out the plans for the future, and got that stamp of approval and excitement from Ivan, which is really cool. Yeah,
I think that's just the hard part now, honestly, is being in the office, and his office is still here and he's not here. But what Sony did for him and putting that plaque on the front of the building was really
amazing.
Every building here pretty much has a name of a famous filmmaker. So the fact that they were able to do that for him.
That's awesome.
Nice. Yeah.
That's so awesome. Okay. So back to set. So this is where you guys are getting into the thick of it. I remember, I'll never forget. I think it was, I'm once again tracking Eric's life. I think it was after your first day of filming, and you guys had it was first week. There was the first family photo.
That was literally our first day.
That was the first day.
And
Okay.
technically, I think it was like a pre-shoot day. Like it was like a half day, a very quick sort of.
And I remember Abby like inspecting the photo, like, look at the glasses, look at her hair.
Yeah.
We know what's going on
I
here.
was at work. It was like immediate background on my phone.
right.
It was getting me through my shift.
Yeah.
And was that the first time I think people saw the Rust City name on the
In
class
connection.
board?
I think so. Yeah. And then, well, that's really a good question. I don't know if anybody's ever asked this. Was Afterlife, when was the title decided? Was that early on, or was there back and forth?
We had quite a few titles. It'd be fun to talk about some of those someday.
Someday.
Okay. All right.
Later.
But yeah, we didn't decide that until probably towards the end of shooting, honestly.
Right.
It was,
it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
Because with the subtitles, like half the time, it just, like with a lot of movies, it just feels like they just picked a word out of the script and threw it on there. Like, not, it's like a Jurassic World thing, like Dominion.
Right.
But Afterlife makes so much sense, and the context, it just works. It's perfect.
I think we did a whole episode one time about
guessing the title,
movie titles, and just like how all the Independence Day Resurgence. And it's like, just call it Ghostbusters.
Right.
Just
call
call
it meaning. Choose a good one.
Right.
Like all that.
That's the hard part, exactly, too, because like all these brands have done so many different iterations and subtitles. It's like, how do you create your own that's not stepping on anyone else's?
Right.
Well, and also because like with Jason and Gil, they're writers first, right? And like they're not going to go with anything that isn't perfect, and then
or that doesn't make sense,
and then like
sound cool.
Well, that's the marketing machine. They come to you with all these ideas of like, this will get butts in theaters. This word is,
okay,
works really well.
The word Ghostbusters
has nothing to do with our movie, but sure, we can put that as
right. Yeah, they're like Ghostbusters #TikTok. Like,
popping off.
Yeah. Can you talk? We've gotten to know Logan Kim and his family a lot, and like, what a find, just out of like literally the middle of Texas.
Yeah, he self-taped. We get hundreds of tapes for different roles, and he obviously caught everyone's eye. And so it's crazy to think that we weren't really going after big names or anything for some of these roles, and we were looking all over the country and getting tapes from everywhere. So he was, I think Jason has described him even at Comic-Con, just like to see how he held himself, in front of all these people. And this is his first time ever doing anything, or was his first time ever doing it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there was a funny
polished,
but he acted like he'd been doing it longer than anybody up there.
Yeah,
and that was the same thing on set. He would show up and just be like, "I got this," Here we go.
Like, what? How is
like
this
a student of comedy? Yeah.
I need to understand where he gets this confidence, because I've been searching for it for like almost 40 years now.
I'd like some of that.
I'd like some of that confidence. So Logan's great. Celeste is great. The cast is awesome. Like, there's so much chemistry there. But like, again, that feels like such a, I guess, are you working with like, does Jason have casting directors that he normally works with? And what is that process like? Because like, these are, like, I'm telling you something you don't know. These are big decisions. These are the new Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Very few people have been Ghostbusters.
A lot of times the way it works just in the industry is once they narrow it down to a couple people that sort of, feel like they're going to work, they start doing chemistry reads together. So, McKenna and Finn would read together and we'd hear them, and Finn and other people would read together,
Right.
So it's same thing with Logan. He was reading and doing chemistry reads with other actors.
Sure.
So
that's awesome.
But seeing them all together for the first time, we brought them to the stages when we were building the sets. This was probably 2 weeks before we started shooting.
Yes.
And they immediately gelled, all four of them. Like, McKenna had her little ukulele she was playing on, and was singing, and West was dancing, and Podcast was humming along, Logan was humming along. I use their names interchangeably like all the time
Yeah.
now. So.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I get it.
I get it.
And then there was the
But
famous,
yeah, no, it's
the
great.
ice cream photo.
Yes.
The famous ice
Ice
cream,
cream leak.
which I believe, well, we don't want to
I
call
think
anybody
Logan
out.
did.
No, we
Was that
don't.
Logan or McKenna that posted that? I forget who, but
We know.
I
I
think,
think we know who it is.
I think it
we
was
know.
somebody in the Kim family.
it was
posted
somebody. In the
they definitely got a little talking to after that first.
Uh-huh.
like, okay,
Yeah.
this isn't a FedEx commercial, guys. This is- okay. I don't know if you know who that is, but that's Ivan Reitman right there. He's got- yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. But that
Um,
chemistry was great. It was, you could feel it on screen, and like even being around them at the that launch party we were just at for
Oh, the Spirit
Ilphonic. Yeah, like
Yeah.
seeing Logan and McKenna, they're just like dancing, cutting up a rug. It's awesome. Like
Yeah.
it's cool that
They're
people
all
are
still
actually friends.
They all still talk. They all still, hang out. They come to those events and stuff. So it's cool to see that they've formed such a good connection.
Right. So once you guys are done filming, once you kind of mentioned it earlier, like nothing really leaked, like very little information got out. I mean, I think the closest to anything there was like a photograph from a restaurant with like Sigourney Weaver and Dan Aykroyd or something like that. And people were like,
that was in our hotel.
"Oh, it was in your hotel."
Ooh.
But
Yeah.
even like the fact that it was just one photo. I mean, I know the
Yeah.
Ecto pictures and stuff. When
This brings
Ecto
up a
ones
funny
drive down the
story.
street. I'm sorry?
So this is just remind me of a funny story.
Sure.
The
Mhm.
first day we shot with all the OG characters, they were all there, and Erica and I, the other co-producer, we were literally, there were people on the street watching. We were running up and down the street as we saw people taking photos and being like, "Excuse me, can you delete that photo, please? We're trying to protect the privacy of this film." And then we even this is where it got like super creepy. We saw a photo come through. It was like tagged, hashtag Sigourney Weaver, hashtag Bill Murray or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was comparing the photo to the angle that it was shot at, and I was
Yeah.
like,
Oh
this person-
man.
And then I looked at his account, and I like could see a picture of him just barely, and I spotted him. I ran up to him, I'm like, "Hey, did you just post a photo of
Yeah.
this?"
Yes.
And take
This
it
sounds
down.
fun.
Hey, I was
Yeah,
just
that
gonna
sounds
say
like
that
Jake's dream job.
that would
Yeah, I
if
wanna
you
do that.
need Eric, if you need to replace the photo enforcement on the next set, Jake is
Yeah.
your guy.
Oh yes.
He will
I'll do it.
gladly just tear phones out
stop
of
before it starts. Yeah. Smack that phone.
I felt like a little detective there.
Yeah.
It was
I-
fun.
I do feel like I knew about. I don't remember where this came from, but I feel like I knew about J.K. Simmons. I feel like at some point there was a rumor or some. I don't know if it was like substantial,
Well,
but
I think you started the rumor.
Well, he's been
I
in, like,
may-
every-
I might
yeah.
have started the rumor
Yeah,
because I
yeah.
wanted it to be true, and then when
Yeah.
we saw the movie, I was
think
like,
he's
"Oh,
been
he
in
is in here."
every single Jason Reitman.
Yeah.
Right. That's
That's probably where it
exactly.
came from. I think that's
Yeah.
probably where it came from. Was somebody was just like, "Well, of course he's going to be
Right.
in
Well,
this."
who's he
And then
gonna
when I-
play?
And then when I
mean,
heard that, I
shit.
was like, "Well, he better be in it,"
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
Yeah, so like you guys did a great job, or is that the benefit of shooting in a smaller town?
Yeah, I
But-
guess like no paparazzi and stuff, and
Right.
Calgary didn't have a big filmmaking sort of community yet.
Right.
It's grown
Right.
a lot since we've been there, which is great.
Right.
But yeah, no, we didn't really have to deal with any of sort of the stuff we would deal with in big cities in the US that, are used to having shooting and paparazzi and all that stuff.
Sure.
So it was really just about honestly controlling the cast and the crew and the few
Right.
people that showed up sometimes outside
Right.
the
Mhm.
sets.
Well, I mean, when you guys were doing exteriors for Answer the Call, like I feel like that entire scene was just like
Yeah.
on Twitter,
Yeah.
like that day. Like I'm getting texts from Jake. Here's Ernie Hudson. Here's the press contact. Here's the
I was surprised even when we did the Ecto pulling out of the garage at the police station in Somerville, there were probably 50 to 100 people on the street watching that. And we couldn't really control it, but we asked everyone.
Mhm.
And I guess Canadians are super nice, and everyone was like, "Oh yeah, no,
Yeah,
we
sure.
posted
Yeah.
it. Yeah, sure, yeah, we're just watching, enjoying." So that was
That's
such
so
a
funny.
cool scene because we did that practically too, where the Ecto skidded around that corner, and I guess the what was revealed was that Stay Puff.
Oh, the side of the wall, yeah.
Right. Right.
People
Well, I
had
feel
done
like-
The ad.
that, but
even at the screening in New York at New York Comic Con, I remember getting online and seeing all the people who weren't there kind of complaining that they were screening the movie so early. I don't know, it was like a month before the movie.
Yeah.
I remember everybody was like, now it's going to be all over the internet and people are going to be sharing it and filming it. And I remember looking to see if there were anybody sharing video from that event, and I was like,
There was
everybody's
nothing.
being cool about it. Nobody leaked anything.
I was also, I'm making myself look bad, but I was also crazily running up and down the aisles during that, being like, turn off your
Were
phone.
you?
Turn off your phone.
Hey, again,
I
I
mean,
need help
everyone
with
from
that.
Sony basically was doing that, but
I love that.
I'm glad we saw it when we did, because I believe the same day that trailer came out that had Egon in the trailer.
Oh, right.
Wasn't that the same
international
day?
trailer? It
It
was
was
like
the
a couple
day,
days
or there was the
later.
day
Yeah.
after, and I remember being like, "Well, I'm glad I saw the movie already."
Right.
Yeah, but I think it was like an
remember him being
unspoken
in- was
bond.
he was in a
He's in the truck, and I'm like,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
pause
yeah.
it, you can tell who that is. But
Speaking of trailers, like that build up to that first trailer and then the second trailer after all, like I guess we should touch on COVID. I know nobody wants to talk about COVID anymore.
Don't touch it.
Because it's over. It's just over if you pretend it's over, right?
well, it depends on where you live, I guess.
Right.
I guess our first trailer was obviously way before COVID, because the first trailer had the original release date on it, right?
Yeah, first
Yeah.
trailer was December of 2019.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think there were posters out. Like you could get a poster that
Poster
has
came
that date
out.
on it.
Yeah.
COVID delays. We don't even need to talk about it. It was horrible, and it was such a bummer because, like, on top of everything, you just wanted something to look forward to.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only maybe small positive was that it allowed us a little bit more time to, fine tune the special effects and
Sure.
the VFX, and also just let some time pass and look at it again. We didn't shoot the coda scene until just a few months before it came out. I think it was, and I think some of that stuff did leak too.
It did. It did, but we all thought it was for a commercial or for.
Yeah.
We either thought it was for a commercial or for the. There was like there was like talk of a documentary about the song or something. We were like, oh, maybe it's something else, But with
more great detective work by me. I was like, I think it's for the VMAs.
That's for the VMAs.
So stupid.
Would that like post credit stuff even have happened if?
Yes,
COVID
yeah.
didn't
We
happen?
always.
You were planning
I
on
should-
it anyway.
Yeah, I should explain it. That wasn't an afterthought. We were going to
Okay.
do a coda anyways, but we just couldn't film it during
Right.
shut down. So
I mean, that was so cool getting to film a little bit more at the original Firehouse. I mean, that's awesome.
that was a pretty big feat too, because we almost missed the window of they're redoing it right now to make it into like an art center. It's owned by the city, so all that stuff that you saw in the film was basically how it looked. Like stuff was torn off the walls. It was dirt on the ground.
We've driven by it.
Yeah. I mean, that's perfect though, because it looked exactly like you needed it to look for the screen. Yeah.
So it worked out well, and we were also just the fact that we were able to get back in there, able to take more photos, reference photos. We got LiDAR data of the whole building so that we can, rebuild interiors if we need to.
Just in case.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just in case we got to keep this Ghostbusters thing going a little longer.
So it was nice. We took advantage of being there to do as much as we could.
Good.
What strikes me about this movie and one conversation when you have like the philosophical conversation about Ghostbusters being the original being a great comedy, sure, Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, the great improvisers of a generation, but like including Ernie Hudson in that conversation, they're incredible actors. And this movie, like you've got Paul Rudd, and you've got Carrie Coon, and you've got like McKenna Grace, who's like on this trajectory to be like the next whoever, I don't know, Scarlett Johansson or whoever, the next big, it's crazy.
Yep.
She's like A-list, like incredible talent. She's
Yeah.
getting Emmy nominations. I think, but they all have like this amazing comedic timing, and the script is so like, I guess I should ask that. Like, I know there's improv and things like that, but shooting script compared to what we see on screen, I would imagine is pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, certain scenes obviously are missing and things are cut down a bit, but there's some improvising that happens on set, obviously. But,
Right.
what you see is what I read. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's what you read like the first time you read the script. Like it stayed pretty
consistent. I mean, there's lots of things.
Sure, there's little things, yeah, but I just
change throughout, and the scope and scale of certain things have to, adjust for budget and everything. But the essence of that ending, it works so well in the script form. Like literally every time I read it, I got emotional. But it worked even better, once it was shot. So
yeah. I mean, the scenes, this is the thing we all talk about, and Abby and I talk about all the time, is like that ending scene, the last battle into, we're ending a Ghostbusters movie with maybe some of the most emotional stuff I've seen on screen, like ever.
Yeah.
Like you've got with Carrie Coon and
it takes the acting, like the facial reactions that you're watching. Like that's
Bill and Dan, like they are saying, there's no words, but they're conveying so much emotion.
That's the first point that I cry every time I watch the movie. Is seeing their reactions. That's what gets me going. And then it's the end stuff too, obviously, when he's with the kids. But
dude, the thing with like, Craig's gone. The thing with like when all four guys are together busting at the same time, and it's like the shot turns around and you just see all four. That is insane to me. And we've talked about this before, is that it's crazy that like Star Wars came back with the new trilogy, Force Awakens and all that. You got 3 movies. They're going to bring back all your your original guys. But it's like one thing they never did that Afterlife did and made it so satisfying is that everybody's together. And it's like what you want to, it's like gave you that emotional release that you needed to have. And I'm like, Star Wars didn't even do that. And it's the fucking biggest thing in the world. And they couldn't do it, but Jason could.
Yeah. Reuniting our favorite characters like that.
So Abby's microphone is not working now.
Oh, I can hear. You can't hear it all, Eric?
Well, I can hear, but it's echoing from my thing.
Okay.
Picking up.
Okay.
It does sound different.
All right. Well, I think I can fix it.
Cool.
I can do it right now.
You sound different too, Craig.
I got it. How about now?
Talk. Say something.
Test.
Abby?
Test.
Yeah.
We're good.
I think so.
Okay. Good. Okay. Cool. We'll see. We can edit. There's always test. So I think maybe one of the cats hit one of the wires or something.
That's what we'll say.
Yeah. That's what
we'll
tell the people.
There's no cats right
There's
now.
no cats anywhere. I think there's a damn cat around here.
She's sleeping.
So okay, before we're gonna wind down here, we really appreciate your time. We can't do YHS things without talking about toys. So Hasbro has been an awesome relationship. An incredible amount of product came out in 2020, 2021. They just did the whole unboxing reveal of the Spangler pack. Congratulations. That was such an awesome, successful project. How cool was that?
That project was amazing to work on. And the fact that we just watching sort of their what do they call it? Not the Kickstarter, but their HasLab.
Yeah.
Watching that counter go up each day was pretty satisfying. But that was amazing. Their designers were in LA. We pulled the props, we scanned them, we measured. They did everything to make it as realistic as possible. And so it leaked. I saw there's some photos of our packaging. We have them early already, and I've already messed around with it, and it's so cool. It's like the quality that they put into it, and it's just amazing. It's really cool.
Yeah, we can't wait to get our hands on that. And then so I always talk, people actually will ask us like, hey, how come there's not any new Ghostbusters toys right now? And I always this is what I always tell them. And Eric, you tell me how wrong or right I am.
Cool.
I always say that Ghostbusters is a franchise that's very media driven. So when there's media to support, whether it's movie, TV, video games, that's when you're going to see a stronger merchandise rollout for things like action figures and toys like that.
I mean, it's any franchise, honestly. Like,
it's
just so happens that there's a million Star Wars things going on all the time.
right, exactly.
There's always product out there. But yeah, that's exactly it. Is obviously, it helps them when there's media behind what's happening in the toy aisles as well. So they're still a partner of ours. They're an amazing partner. We have a lot of fun stuff we're working on to be prepared for future stuff. So not going away.
See, you know, you
Good
tell
news,
me, this is what I tell
friends.
the people.
Yeah.
They're like, well, why isn't there Ghostbusters 2 Plasma Series figures out? I'm like, because that movie came out in 1989. We gotta move forward at
Been
some
there,
point.
done that. We're working on new stuff.
Thank you.
Yes.
God.
Yes.
Oh man, you know. And then now is Ghostbusters 2 canon? I'm just kidding.
Oh my God.
Oh, we love the fan.
Well, actually, if people go back, there is a scene where you can actually see the Ecto 1A license plate in the barn if you look very closely. It's
There
hard
it
to see.
is.
There's also
Confirmed.
a guy. There's
And
also
also-
a Geiger-meter.
There is a
The
guy.
Geiger-meter
That's
is in.
super- And also, Ray Stantz is in his bookstore. So
Yes,
Yes.
he is.
Raise a
We didn't
cult.
Exactly.
see
Right
that
there.
before.
We got to talk about that scene. This is actually my favorite scene in the movie. Unfiltered Dan Aykroyd as Ray Stantz for the first
This
time.
is your most quoted scene.
I love it. I quote like little pieces of like Abby will come in the room and she'll be like, "Hey, did you feed the cats?" And I'll just be like, "Well, he wasn't helping." She's like, "What?"
I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah,
that
was-
whole recreation of
Yeah.
Raise a Call was amazing.
It was,
So sick.
honestly, that was my favorite set on the entire Afterlife film. I mean, all the other ones were amazing and grand and big and really cool, and the house was amazing. But you could actually feel like you were in New York. It smelled in that set like patchouli oil and all the other
Mhm.
things that you might smell in a store like that. And yeah, it felt like we were back in the 80s in the movie. So
That's awesome.
So
It's such a
cool.
great scene. The one thing that always strikes me from like a filmmaking perspective, and like Eric Spielberg, cinematographer, works on all the Jason Reitman movies. Like there's like these really deep and rich like reds, and like his face is very shadowed at times, and like there's like a somberness to the conversation. Like again, just amazing acting. And we've heard rumor. I think Jason actually told us this. That scene might have been like 20 minutes longer originally.
yeah, I was going to say that monologue was way longer than was actually on screen.
Yeah.
was-
I want
I
to
need
see
to
it.
see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. People would be really mad if we didn't ask this, and you might not be able to comment on it. Is there plans for more DVD special edition deleted scene type content down the road?
Right. I mean, they always want new content, and
Right.
obviously there's stuff that we shot that wasn't on the DVD. So at some point, I'm sure that there will be more and more, but it's a filmmaker choice at the end of the day, and
Right.
some stuff just isn't necessarily good and doesn't need to see the light of day, and probably won't ever. But there's some other stuff that I think they'll probably eventually mine that will end up on.
I mean, if you just put out a disc and like a clear case of just the Dan Aykroyd
Yeah,
scene, I would be
just
set.
copyright Dan Aykroyd.
No,
Yeah.
I want 30 years from now to get the work print like we just got of the original Ghostbusters and sit down and be like, whoa, this is 100% a different movie.
Yeah.
Hey, the work print of 84 is such a
It's-
fun and
Mhm.
bizarre watch.
Mhm.
It
That
was
so
it's
that-
awesome.
I don't know if they put any context to that, but literally the original editor, Sheldon Kahn, he was going through boxes of videotapes that he had trying to find his daughter's Christmas recital from back in the day. And he pulled out this tape and it
Yeah.
said Ghostbusters first screening on it. And he called me and he was like, I've got this tape. Do you think anyone at Sony would want to scan it and see what it is? And they scanned it, and sure enough, it was it had gold in there. It had that original scene with Jason and his mom running out.
right, which is used in
Yeah.
Building,
yeah.
which is used on the YouTube video.
It's
Yeah.
literally a completely different movie. Like the three of us watched it. We were in shock at just how different it
It's a
was.
trip, yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It feels closer to, not in a bad way or anything, but it feels closer to a Caddyshack or Animal House type of thing where if you ever watch Caddyshack, and listen, Harold Ramis made Groundhog Day, greatest movie of all time, but there's some weird plot holes and things happening in Caddyshack where you're some of this doesn't add up, but we'll just accept it. So yeah, what a cool, I love the fact that we're 35, 40 years into this, and just even the deleted scenes from Ghostbusters 2, and then the score came out.
Yep.
You guys are doing so much work to bring. I think I always tell fans and tell people, be grateful, be reflective. Think about how much Ghostbusters content you've gotten in the last 4 to 7 years versus 1989 to 2000,
Yeah.
14
Mhm.
essentially. So
Mhm.
You guys really do so much, and we thank you for
Yeah,
it.
we're grateful. Thank you.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, well, I don't have any other questions, Abigail.
Not that I can ask on air.
Okay. Jake,
No, I just appreciated it. Yeah.
Eric, any final party words? I know you guys are working on. You guys announced so many projects at EctoFest. There's Spirits Unleashed is out. There's a new VR game coming out. There is new comic book, animated movie, animated series, and of course, Ghostbusters Dominion. I'm just throwing it out there.
Don't.
the sequel to Afterlife.
Uh-huh.
I can't imagine how busy you guys are. So we thank you for taking time to do this.
It's busy and it's fun, and we're excited to share more stuff with you guys soon.
Very cool. All right, Eric, a happy 1-year anniversary. We'll do this every year.
Yeah.
It's been 2 years since Afterlife came out. Although a year from now, you might have way more stories to tell. You know, there's a lot happening. All right.
Hopefully
Jake,
it'll never end.
Abby, it'll never end. We're going. We're going. This is going to be 12 movies deep before we know it. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.
Bye, y'all. Thanks, Eric.
Bye.
Bye.
Do you want some cold drinks?
Do I? Yes, have some. Yes, have some.